I'm done trying to live up to others' expectations. Family, society, class, race, sex, or religions. It's time to break free from the isms that make us feel like we're in prison. I'm ready to be unleashed as fuck. I'm ready to be unleashed as fuck. Tired of the madness, done with the sadness. Gonna break free and be unleashed.
Hey, leash breakers. Now, we didn't plan on Charlie Kirk being our entry point for for one discussion, certainly not multiple discussions. But when a public figure such as Charlie Kirk gets shot and the partisan lines, before we even know who pulled the trigger, we can't ignore that this is a leash. Right? It's a leash of division, and we're watching it right now choking our country.
Yep.
And if you think that this leash, politics, partisan issues, and what's going on in America right now, if you think it isn't affecting your leadership or your visibility or your voice in some way, I think this show is going to show you that you may need to think again.
Yep. And, this isn't just about which side of the political spectrum you fall on.
Yeah.
It's about programming across the spectrum. We're being conditioned to react to sensationalized, emotionally charged clickbait so fast that we stop thinking altogether. It's just easier to react to it. So then we see friends, neighbors, or even family members reacting in a different way, and it's shocking. It's jarring. It's aggravating. It's infuriating sometimes. Then we're pulled into the trap. We're getting wrapped up in defending our perspectives or trying to change others' views instead of realizing how we are getting played as well by the 1%, the oligarchy, who benefits from our mental and emotional exhaustion, which is really what this is.
Oh my goodness. And it is exhausting, isn't it? It really has been exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the point. And you're listening to Unleashed AF, the podcast that rips off the mask, exposes the leashes that are holding you back, some that you know about and some that you can't see, and reclaim the raw power that you were born with. I'm Deidre Beecham, visibility catalyst, keynote speaker, and creator of the Medusa Effect and Trigger Tripping. I'm dedicated to working with you to stop shrinking, speak your truth, and lead everywhere you are unmasked.
Yeah, and I'm Jenny Baddick, a certified hypnotherapist, coach, human factors engineer, and liberator of your subconscious superpowers. And I help people understand and unleash what's already inside them so they can stop sabotaging and start soaring. And together, we are leash breakers, dream makers, risk takers.
Won't you
Mess around with us. So if you love what we're about, hit like, follow, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments or at unleashedafpodcast.com, our website. At that website, you can go to the WWJDD page, which is What Would Jenny and Deidre Do, to give us feedback on an episode or give us a topic idea for a future episode or just a more private comment if you don't want to comment underneath the video itself. So we're here to expose the leashes, explore what it really means to be free, and to help you step into your fully authentic, unleashed life.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and get into what is going on in America right now. I mean, it's a little nutty, have to say. But the whole thing with Charlie Kirk really had us thinking that we need to talk a little bit more about this because, while we stepped in and talked about Charlie Kirk and how horrific it was that he was killed in that manner and the aftermath, we thought it'd really be nice to spend at least one episode talking about it from more of what is going on as far as what we're being trained to see or not say, like not to see and not to say. And, how we're being hijacked by this division and, our perspectives on it. And I know that, from my perspective, and I think you would agree, Jenny, that this division is not random.
Right.
Right? It's not random. It's meant to divide us. They are trying to divide us, trying to overwhelm us with fear and overwhelm and confusion and frustration. Because as long as we're feeling all of those things, which are all very low vibration, right, as long as we're feeling all of those things, we're having a difficult time moving forward and paying attention to things that we really need to be paying attention to.
Yeah, and that reminds me of research that I remember hearing about. I don't remember what the experiment was called or who did it, but there was something about research where they had different types of ants in the same ant colony or something like
Yeah, it
that.
was like red ants. And,
Red
yeah,
and black
I
ants or
remember that.
something like that. And they were fine.
Mhm.
They got along just fine until you shook up the thing and they started, like bumping into each other, and then they started attacking each other. So it's like they got along just fine until there was an agitation added where they weren't sure where that unsettledness came from, so they just blamed whatever ant landed on them, and it became a us against them thing. And
Right.
that's
Like,
what
it's
it
all
feels
your
like.
fault. I got hurt. You stepped on me. It's all your fault. When all the time it's the person that shook the jar.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. That's exactly what it feels like is going on in our country right now.
Yeah, this whole topic made me think about a lot about when I was a kid and I was learning about World War II, and of course, Diary of Anne Frank. And it always blew my mind how could so many people just sit back and allow the atrocities to happen that happened. And it feels so incredibly surreal to me because we're watching it happen right now. Atrocities are happening, have been happening. And yet, in so many ways, we're just sitting by and watching it happen. And it made me think a lot. I was just talking to Jenny before we had the show that I had done some journaling on this morning, and it struck me how much the training that's in place. Well, I talk about nice girl training and how there are certain expectations made of studied and talked about extensively, but that there are all these rules that we're supposed to follow, and all of it, every single bit of it, is meant to keep us quiet. In the end, it's meant to keep us quiet. It's meant to keep us in control, or so that we can be controlled. And this is by design. All of this is by design. Yeah, and that's insanity.
Yeah.
And if you want to jump in here and say something, please feel free. I do want to share in a little bit some answers to a questionnaire that I've been sending out. It's a visibility questionnaire. And just this morning, 2 people that really want to say something haven't anything because of this. Because of this training. And these are powerful women. You'd never think, oh, well, they're not scared to say anything. And these women are scared to say something. And it has so much to do with what's happening out there, and much more with what's happening inside of them. And how they're holding themselves back. Nobody else is holding anybody back right now. They're holding themselves back.
Yeah. And, part of what you were saying reminded me of a thought I had earlier today about the privilege thing and how I know we get caught up sometimes in going, how could anyone who's Black support someone who's like not supporting their, like wanting to hurt their people or whatever. And you can do that for any minority group. And I think one of the things I was thinking earlier today is sometimes privilege is in here, The idea of
Yes.
privilege, it's not just based on color of your skin. If someone has the mindset that I'm not going to be silent, and that it is like people deserve to hear what I have to say and stuff like that, they'll just go out and say it. And
Hmm.
so sometimes it's that mindset that gets them in a position where they end up with the privilege that was typically maybe reserved for, it's easier for white males to do that in a patriarchal society.
Hmm.
But sometimes there's people of other races, other colors, sometimes under other genders, not as much that as just other races. But um, so that's where I think it gets confusing sometimes to try to understand, well, how can that person support this behavior? It's like, well, because they've become part of the privileged class as well, even though they may not fall into what we technically define as the privileged class. They've inserted themselves just based on an idea that I'm not to be silenced. I'm going to jump right in there and be one of them. So sometimes it is the internal mindset that can potentially make a difference in how we're perceiving things, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the points that I made this morning on a post, do you follow Reverend Carla?
No.
Anyway, Reverend Carla is a woman, and she used to belong to a church. I can't remember which one. I really don't pay too much attention. But then she left, and I believe she's still a reverend, and she still preaches. But she love and how are we doing what we're doing? So to me, she's on the right side of history, because there's a right and a wrong side of history here for Christians.
Mm-hmm.
There seems to be one path that is going very, very, um, all in on Trump, all in on everything he says. Get rid of all of the illegal immigrants, although we are quite illegal immigrants ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and black people are stupid. I mean, just all of this old stuff that
Yeah.
I thought was squashed and tiny and just a little tiny portion of America. And
Mhm.
they've been so, so very loud. But thankfully, there are people that have kind of split off, join that, but are splitting off from that now and saying, "Oh my gosh, I've been so fooled. I've been so tricked." And I think that's kind of what we're talking about here, is how did they get tricked to begin with?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how does that happen? How does a person who is raised, supposedly by biblical values, and Jesus to me was full of warmth and empathy, and he sat in
Acceptance and
acceptance, love, and treating
forgiveness.
forgiveness, right? Treating your neighbor as you hope that you would be treated yourself. And there's scriptures about who is my neighbor, and it turns out everybody's your neighbor. So how does this happen? And I have my own point of view, but from your point of view, Jenny, how does this happen? How do these people end up? And I'm saying these people, I'm even adding more division, right? But how do people get so caught up in a message that they end up giving up what it would seem that they say that they stand for?
Yeah. Well, I think there can be several things that go into that. So it kind of depends on their situation, but certainly the more repetition they're getting, I mean, the subconscious is so influenced by what it hears or sees. And so
Which
the
I think is the
more,
danger of like Fox News, and the danger
yep,
of, what was that horrible man's name? Rush Limbaugh, like the
ugh,
Rush Limbaughs of the world.
yep,
And now Charlie Kirk and whoever's going to take his place, because of course
hmm,
somebody will.
yeah, yeah. So that's definitely part of it. Is they are finding themselves in places where the same rhetoric is getting repeated over and over and over again. And so it just gets more deeply and deeply rooted in their subconscious as this is true. This is all we've ever heard. This comes from the people that we look up to. And, they've been trained since birth, basically, to look up to the people in their church or wherever they're getting their information from. So that's definitely one part of it. And another thing I definitely wanted to talk about today was the Dunning-Kruger effect, because when people talk so confidently about something, and because it got under my skin to hear people say, oh, but Charlie Kirk, he just wanted to debate. He was so open to conversation and debating. He wasn't open to debating. He was open to proving you wrong with everything that he could say, whether it was right or wrong. And so he just spoke with the level of confidence that would make some people, if you don't know anything about the subject, think, man, he really knows what he's talking about, because he's speaking like this is the gospel truth. But if you dig down enough, you can find out, oh, well, no, that's just his interpretation of it. That's not.
Well, it's interesting
really
because I read something about how he had never won on a debate stage that was regulated, that followed debate rules. He was only able to win debates in places where he was making the rules for the debates.
Right. Yeah.
But, but you have a graph here. You mean to put that up?
Yeah. Yeah. So the Dunning-Kruger effect, they've found that people end up having a high amount of confidence, which is what's on the left side of the graph there, when they know very little about something. When they first learn something, they're like, oh my gosh, I understand this completely. I know everything. But then as they start to learn more, so as knowledge is gained and you go across the x-axis of the graph, they start to realize, it's not just black and white. There's more to this than I thought. It's not as simple as I thought. And then, oh, wow, man, gosh, this is so complicated now that I know more about it. I'm never going to understand this. And then you start to learn a little more and you see the patterns that aren't black and white patterns, but you see the shades of gray patterns. And it's okay, it's starting to make sense. And then, you feel more confident and you're not going to say absolutes at that point, because there aren't absolutes. You've learned enough about it to realize there's so many different things that come into play about a subject that you can't really speak about it in absolutes. So it's like, it's complicated. And that's part of why, honestly, I think people that are like Christian nationalists and things like that, they'll passionately defend something. And it's because they're in that top little peak of the Dunning-Kruger effect. They're going to tell you it's right or wrong, because at that point, everything seems very simple and straightforward, black and white. But the more you get to know about it, and that's why and I'm not going to say it's right versus left, but if we're talking Christian nationalists that are like fire and brimstone, and people who are trying to say, no, it's not that simple. You can't just lump everybody into the same group and say, we want to euthanize homeless people, or, like those kinds of things. We're never going to say it's all or nothing, because we know there's so many different aspects to an issue. It's not black and white anymore. So it's hard to argue with them. They feel like, well, I'm right. You can't even tell me I'm wrong. You're just saying, well, maybe it's not. You know what I mean? Like, they take such a powerful position and confidence that it's hard to knock them off that pedestal. The only way to do it is to expose them to more information if they're open to receiving it. And that's part of why I feel like even things in our media, whether it's on streaming or on TV or on the news, like drama or comedy programs, those kinds of things, when they start to get exposed to more information about it, not just the fear of, oh my God, they're eating our cats and dogs, that ridiculousness.
Yeah.
Meet some Haitians and find out that they don't come over and steal your pets and start eating them. I mean, it's just, the more you get to know, the more you realize the highly emotional yet highly confident rhetoric of black and white decision making doesn't hold water, basically. So that feels like one of the things that we can do to try to help shift people. And I think that's part of what you were saying too, where there are some Christians now that are going, man, I was duped. I'm seeing now that this was not what I thought it was at all. So
yeah. And that's been very interesting. I don't have one of those videos right now. I didn't think about bringing one, but yeah, that's been very interesting to watch, that people watch the Charlie Kirk memorial and the almost celebratory, the very politically charged messages from some of the people, the selling of goods at memorial. There were several Christians that said, "Oh my gosh, it's that's what woke me up. That this was all political. That Trump is a wolf in sheep's clothing." And we look at that and go, "Where do you see the sheep?" But going with what you're talking about,
yeah,
saying, going with what you're talking about, if you're hearing something over and over and over again, absolutely, you can get charmed or almost brainwashed into this way of thinking, and it gets compounded for those of us that have had nice girl training. I know that very early on, I knew from the get-go, you don't tell on people, because if they have more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Clout.
Yeah, clout. That is a great word. If they have more clout than you, they're not going to believe you, because nice girls don't bring trouble, especially to the man across the street that gives us free peaches. He's a really nice farmer. Why would you say something against him? And suddenly, it's against you. You're the bad person for bringing up something that changes somebody else's mind about somebody they've already made up their mind about.
Yep.
And so you learn at a very early age to hold back, because the in saying something, you're not going to be believed.
Yep.
And enter cognitive dissonance, where it's or you see something at school. Maybe you see something at school and it's a black kid being beaten up, or being called the N-word, or just name it. And instead of doing something, you just kind of stand idly by, don't say anything. Or if there's a joke about a black person, and just kind of like, oh, but you don't say anything. You walk away, and that's this reoccurring message. It's almost like this loop that I had in my head, which was, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Yep.
Nice girls don't cause trouble. Don't cause trouble. Just don't say anything. In this house, we don't talk about religion, politics, or race. Religion, politics, race, money. So all those things. We don't talk about these things. Just talk about those things. And I remember coming home one time and saying, "Oh my gosh, so-and-so, this happened on the bus. Did you say," sometimes you just have to pretend you don't see it. But I do see it. And so this cognitive dissonance between, as kids, we have our humanity, right? We're trying to figure out our way in the world. And then all these rules come into place saying it doesn't matter what you see, you need to act this way.
Mm-hmm.
And so this cognitive dissonance just gets built in and gets stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
The more you're getting the repeated messages that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for a lot of people, part of that training, I think, to maybe not say something is based on fear of what can happen when you start to point something out to someone who lives in that more like black and white world. Because once you start to threaten what they believe is true, especially when it's part of what defines them, if they're big into their religious identity and you start to poke holes in it, the natural defense of the human is to defend itself, to fight back. So they'll say whatever it feels like is either going to make you now feel bad or poke holes in whatever your identity thing is, or
Right.
hurt you in some way.
But don't you think that one of the ways that we can combat that is to raise our children to understand their personal value and to have a greater compassion for themselves and what they believe, rather than making them think, or act like, some weird rules that came down from white supremacists above, to hand out to everybody. I mean, if I value what I think and what I believe to be true, then what you believe to be true, I can shrug off and go, well, that's good for you, but this is where I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that completely.
And that's really hard for adults. That's really hard for some adults who haven't worked through this.
Yeah.
And that's that's just great. And I know I've done it myself.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to share one thing this morning. I have this visibility questionnaire that I've mentioned earlier, and it's a project for my MBA. And I'm asking everybody a series of questions, and it's more evolved now. There are 2 main questions that are required. 4 gets you something else, and 7 gets you something else. So, I'll have to give it back to you, see if you want to answer more questions.
Okay.
But one of the questions was, if you're fully visible, unfiltered, unapologetic, and deeply seen, what would change in your life or business? Now, this particular person that answered this question, and it's all anonymous. This particular person, as far as I'm not going to share who the person is. She's a powerful woman. She's just, wow, she's amazing. And here's an answer that I thought was very interesting. I do feel like I'm authentically visible in my business and life, but truth be told, I do avoid topics like religion and politics because I don't want to alienate or deal with confrontation. So here's somebody that's holding themselves back small, doing all the things that they were taught. They were taught not to say anything about religion, not to say anything about politics. I don't want to alienate or confront anybody. And so what does that mean? What happens? I mean, that means that we just stand by and let horrific things happen because we don't want confrontation. We don't stay true to ourselves because we don't want confrontation. And that's a scary thing, because we're not even being told what to say or what not to say yet. This is all based on our own fears of being seen for what we think and believe.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I kept talking. What were you going to say?
That's okay. I was going to say, that's true to a certain extent, but I also think that there are different personality types. And like we said way back, probably when we were talking about just the election itself and how people could get involved and how it might get pretty nasty. It's not necessarily that everyone needs to be like an alpha, throw yourself in front of a tank kind of
Agreed
situation either. So some of that can just be, well, that's just part of her personality, or she's just non-confrontational. But if everybody was like that, yeah, we'd have an issue. We wouldn't be able to get very far. And I can relate to her. I mean, I'm a non-confrontational person as well. There are times when I'll stand up for something, but I also will read the room and recognize that, oh, this may not be the right time to speak up because I don't.
Oh, sure. And if we're in dangerous, and if we're in a dangerous situation where we're talking about, potential physical repercussions, of course. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we go out and be alpha all the time, or never back down, or don't read a room. I think it's smart to read a room. I don't want people to go out and get themselves killed. But at the same time, if we aren't speaking up in our own way, for for example, I'm not saying everybody needs to be alpha and everybody needs to be angry and everybody needs to be, I don't mean that either, but to find a way, your own way, to say something. Another friend of mine, she does research. There are things that she sees and she's like, I have to say something. And so she spends time and she does research to make sure that she can back her position before stating it out loud, so that she feels prepared for what she knows is coming.
Yeah.
But in her way, she's doing what's important. She's getting it out. She's expressing what she's feeling. And then she's standing and defending what she's writing about. And so in her way, that is her way. It's not alpha. It's not in your face. It's very thorough. It's very professorial. and it's great. And I don't think we all need to be typewriter warriors either. But when it comes to opinion in a safe environment, I mean, the worst thing that's going to happen is somebody's going to say something online. If that's your case, and what's holding you back is fear, because what is somebody going to think of me? Then that's a problem, because that means it's not just happening there. It's happening in other aspects of your life. It's happening in other places. You may not know it yet or see it yet. And you think, well, it's just happening here. No, if you're filtering yourself, this is my position, is that if you're filtering yourself here, if you're filtering yourself in this way, in this place, then I guarantee you're filtering yourself in other places and keeping your voice from truly being heard.
Yep.
That's kind of what I was thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think there are times I've been selective about the things that I've either reposted or shared or just posted on my own in social media. And part of, I think, what has driven those decisions for me is honestly, like, whether I have the energy to continue to try to explain, because I don't typically use like like an all caps kind of explanation to people. I'm not trying to yell at people. I don't get emotional about this stuff. I try to come from a very fact-based or common sense based, like, no, this is just what I'm stating. I'm not calling you anything. I'm not insinuating anything about you. This is just what it is. And it gets exhausting and very disappointing, to the point of feeling hopeless sometimes when you have those kinds of interactions with certain people. And it's like, I've explained everything very factually and they're still not getting it. I don't know what else to do. Like, I know this to be a good person, but how are they not seeing it? Like, it's mentally exhausting and emotionally exhausting.
It is.
So that's
it is. And we do. And we do have to be careful about protecting our energy, our space, our vibration. We do have to do that. And again, I don't mean that everybody needs to be out saying, being an activist warrior, all the time.
Right.
But if something strikes you, right, I'm talking about those moments where somebody says something and you're just overwhelmed with, I've got to say something. I feel like I've got to say something.
Yep.
And then you don't, or you whitewash it so much. And I do mean whitewash, that you whitewash it so much that it really doesn't say anything. It's something that AI could have spit out for you because it doesn't really have you in it. Right? Because it's what you think that you can say without hurting somebody's feelings too much, rather than saying what it was that came to you. What was it in that moment that came to you, that you wanted to share? And holding our voices back is just letting all that stuff happen.
Right. Well, and it's part of what I think the objective of the oligarchy is, to get us kind of battered down. I mean, that was part of what I was getting to is, I've been more silent about stuff lately than I probably would have been years ago, because I'm just worn down by it. I'm exhausted by it. The idea, even when I don't specifically comment on something, but I see other people that have been going back and forth, just reading their going back and forth, and I'm like, God bless, what's up with this person? Like even that's exhausting. I'm like, well, I can't say anything more than what this other person said, and they've shot down everything there. I just can't. I'm just going to be quiet. Even though if there were more people that kind of were on the side of the person speaking sense, maybe that person wouldn't admit it right away, but maybe something would sink in. But it's just, that's how it's working on me. That's how I can see
it's exhausting. And especially when they're saying things that just seem crazy to somebody who's educated. So on that note, let's go ahead and play this video real quick.
If the rich aren't trying to convince the poor that they don't need a college education just so that they can make a college education more exclusive for their children, then why is Congress capping federal financial aid for professional degrees at $150,000? The 1% has people like Charlie Kirk going from college campus to college campus, convincing students who are already enrolled that they don't need to be there because it's not going to benefit them in the long run, especially if they're a female. And all the while, the 1%ers are still sending their children to the most elite universities because they know that those who hold professional degrees are the ones who are making the decisions in this country. They are the decision makers, and they want their children to be those people. So now doctors, lawyers, professional educators, anyone with a doctor in front of their name is now just going to be rich people. Of course, I guess it makes sense considering those are the institutions that the GOP is also attacking. Anyway, I digress.
So what's really interesting about that to me is right now, and I loved her take on it, that it's the ultra rich that are sending out this message because they want it just to be their kids that are going. And they have somehow pushed that all the way down into Fox News and other people that believe in those views and saying, you know what education is? Education just spits out liberal, sissy ass people. That's all they do. All it's there for is just liberalizes you, and it's just brainwashing. That's all it is, because it turns y'all into liberals. And so they've gotten this whole group of people to do their work for them, to now not, to get their kids to not go to college and to try and get liberal and to change the viewpoint of how we view education so that we don't send our kids there.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that their main point is to make it so that only they can send their kids to college. I don't know that they care about sending their kids to college. If they've already gotten established with their businesses and stuff like that, they're just going to have their sons come in and take over and run the business because that's what they've learned. They've brought them up to run the business. I mean, that's what Trump did. He doesn't have any advanced fucking fancy degree.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point.
It's all of it, which again, the reason they don't want access for others to have, or people in general to be able to get more educated, is because then they will know more than the sons and daughters and will be able to kind of create their own empires that will overtake them.
Yeah. That's
so really they just point. Don't want others to have the opportunity. It's not that they only want to reserve it for theirs. There might be some of that, but I think a bigger thing is, no, I know I can build this company and hand it off to my son and he can take it on to the next generation, whatever, and we can stay rich and blah, 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 blah. And it's kind of the exact opposite of the situation that they talked about in Fahrenheit 9/11, where he went around and was just on the streets of DC, I think, interviewing Congress people and saying, do you have any children who are in the military who are going to get called, to go fight this war that why are we going to war with people? We don't even know who actually did this or whatever. And none of them, nobody that he talked to had kids that were in the military. So government people who are making decisions to send all these military people, not their kids, but military people, the exception to that would be Joe Biden. His son was military and ended up being killed. So they know better than to put their own children in these situations. So that's kind of the opposite effect of that. I'm not sending my kid over there because I know there's a good chance there's something's going to go wrong with them. So I'm protecting my kid. I'm not putting them in the civil service or whatever. Same idea.
And it's interesting is that if we go along with what you're talking about, and I think that's a really fascinating way of looking at it, is these people, ultra rich, who have already created these companies and just going to have their kids go work in their companies, so they don't need that education. Then it just proves further down, well, so and so did an education, and look, they just worked in a business, and look, they're doing great right now. So it's just further edifying that education is really not that important, because that message just gets passed on to people that haven't worked through these things, are sitting there and revering when it goes against their best interest, completely against their best interest.
Yep.
Wow, we really don't like to get proved wrong, do we? As human beings.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
It's like a basic instinct.
It is.
Just above actual physical survival instincts is defending yourself, defending like your ego or your honor.
Yeah. I think that's why your subliminal messaging stuff works so well in hypnotherapy, because it is so ingrained, right? It just becomes a part of who you are, not necessarily something you're doing or thinking. It's just
right
who you are, because you've been rewired. And I think that's why it was so important to me to not only use, hypnotherapy from you, but also to be challenging. If something was triggering me and I didn't understand it, instead of going, oh, well, that's just wrong. Instead, I was like, okay, wait a minute. Why? And avoiding it. Instead, I'm going, okay, well, why am I triggered by that? Why is that triggering me? What story am I telling myself that makes me get so triggered by that? Because if so-and-so said, your purple hair looks ugly, I would just laugh because I don't have purple hair. But why is whatever you're saying triggering me if I know that's not true? What story am I telling myself?
Exactly.
Yeah, and so that's very, and the government is relying on us not doing that work.
Right.
The government is relying on us, and I think that's one of the reasons for the overwhelm, is so that we don't do that kind of work.
Yeah. I mean, that's a more evolved approach, right? I mean, the more emotionally intelligent you are, the more evolved you are, even spiritually, I would say, not religiously, but spiritually,
right? You
do more inward questioning to understand, where is this coming from? What is it? Why is this a button for me? And that's one of the things that I think is interesting about, people that are posting or sharing the thing about, I'm Christian, and why is there all this anti-Christian sentiment, and just how does me being Christian hurt you, and yada, yada, yada. Nobody is attacking a Christian for just being a Christian. That's not what's happening. But when they're taking such offense to it, then somewhere inside there, they know that stuff that they're supporting is what's being attacked, not just the fact that they're a Christian. So what is it that they're supporting that really maybe isn't considered as Christian as they realize deep down it should be?
Yeah, but don't want to face, because if they face it, then they also have to unpack the cognitive dissonance that they've been living with in their life.
Yep. And question.
Oh, that's uncomfortable. That is uncomfortable.
Yeah. Question their foundation. So many people, that's part of why I think religion, as it shows up in our country, can be so, dare I say, dangerous, because it's become for so many people such a foundational, like it defines who they are. And I don't think that should define who you are. Just like a political party shouldn't define who you are. There's just other, the definition of who you are should be much broader and much more diverse than just what religion you are or what political party you are. Because when you make that the defining structure of who you are, that's why any attack against whatever group you identify with feels like you have to fight back. And that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah. 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 It's like the biggest difference that I've seen that, that keeps us so apart is, and this happens on both sides, where, somebody will say, well, that's not right. And they're right. That's not right. That's incorrect. The way you're thinking is incorrect because this. And then the other person going, what? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Instead of just kind of listening and seeing that there are more that we have that is similar. There is more that if we just sit down and get rid of these subjects that make us vastly opposed to one another, and instead look at what is it that we want, right? We want to live in a safe environment. We want to be able to raise our families. We want to be able to get ahead in life. We want to be able to pay our bills. We all want a lot of the same things. We want to be loved. We want a lot of the same things.
Mm-hmm.
And once we understand that, but we're putting, like you said, putting these other things as priorities. So we can't even look at why we're similar, how we're similar. How can we put this all together? And again, that is by design. That is absolutely by design.
Yep.
So you can combat. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Not at this point. So go ahead, Jenny, with what you were saying.
Okay. Well, I was gonna start wrapping us up unless there was something else you want
to. Let's see. No, I think we've covered it pretty well.
Okay.
Did we get all our videos shown?
So for the rebel move, I don't think so. Okay. Yeah, I just had the one.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. So the rebel move this week we want to dare you to speak on something, just one thing. Just pick one thing that you've been censoring, and get it out loud and on purpose. It could be a post, maybe you record a video, maybe just start a conversation. It doesn't have to be public. It could just be a conversation with somebody about something that you've not allowed yourself to bring up before, and call out your own fear. Call it out and realize that's what it is. And say, you know what? This fear is not going to keep me from speaking what I want to say. And again, it doesn't have to be public. It could just be a one-on-one conversation. It could be a quiet little private post, something that you've never said before, and stand for that, what you stand for. Because right now, being visible in this way isn't about being vain or, look, I think I'm so special. It's really about helping this country to survive, helping other people that believe like you to survive with you, so that they can have compassion with you, so that you can help each other, so that you can speak out together, so that we can all become undeniably entrenched as Americans again, and living and let live. Anyway, that's what I have to say.
Yeah. I think that's a great challenge.
And then we have, what are we calling out this week? Oh, make sure that we don't forget about October 18th, No King's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget about that. Make sure that is on your calendar if it isn't already. I know we have a banner around here somewhere for that. 50, there it is.
That one.
Yeah, I think we both did it at the same time.
Of course. And then it would also be available
of course we did.
At mobilize.us is another place you can find that information.
Awesome. Then also make sure that you sign up for the strike. I really thought we'd have enough names registered at this point, but we don't. So please get your name on the generalstrike.us.com, because once we reach 3.5% of the population, we are going to plan a much larger general strike. And then, of course, there's always fivecalls.org if you want to do something more active and direct towards people in government. Right now, one of the things is supporting Jasmine Crockett against Laura Loomer. Whatever craziness is going on over there. It is just crazy. I don't have the details. Not enough time in the show. It is nuts. Let's see. And I don't think we talked about what we're doing next week.
No, we haven't nailed it down specifically.
We haven't. So
We have
we'll
some
figure
ideas.
something out. We'll get there. We may even have it in our list of topics, but we didn't put it into our sheet. So we'll make sure we get that up. Yeah. And if you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, follow, just hang out with us. Let people know about us. If you have a topic or want to be a guest, or if you have a question, go to unleashedafpodcast.com. Go to WWJDD. What would Jenny and Deidre do? We'd love to hear from you.
That's right.
All right, Jenny, you want to close us out?
Yeah, remember, leash breakers, you're not too much. You're not broken. The system sure as fuck is.
Oh my, more than ever.
But you are unleashing. That's why you're here. That's why you're listening to us. And we want you to keep going.
We're super excited to have you here. So thank you and have a wonderful week. Until next time.
I'm done trying to live up to others' expectations. Family, society, class, race, sex, or religions. It's time to break free from the isms